Look, out there in the audience.
People!
Gossamer is the large orange-haired monster who, in the words of creator Chuck Jones, takes great pleasure in harassing his victims, especially Bugs Bunny. Despite spawning 75 years ago, Gossamer didn't become a regular in the Looney Tunes roster until recent years, having only appeared in 2 Golden Age Looney Tunes cartoons. In fact, Gossamer didn't even have a name for almost 35 years, best known colloquially as the tennis shoe monster for much of his existence. Despite his few appearances, Gossamer has seen a substantial change over the years, and has somehow solidified himself as one of Bugs Bunny's most beloved antagonists amongst fans, while remaining largely obscure to general audiences. In 2021, Gossamer celebrates 75 years, and to help him, I will trace his evolution from 1946 to now. To do so, we will look at his entire history, touching on design, personality, and name changes over more than 7 decades of shorts, series, and feature films. In this edition of Cartoon Evolution. By the mid-1940s, Bugs Bunny was at the height of his power. Not only was he the most popular star of the Warner Brothers cartoon studio, but he was one of the most recognisable and beloved cartoon characters in the world. By 1946, 6 years after his official debut, he'd appeared in almost 40 shorts, appearing in 5 to 8 a year on average. A majority of these cartoons placed Bugs against wacky antagonists, and depending on the iteration, saw him terrorising them with madcap antics or nonchalantly outsmarting them with cool wits. Bugs' primary antagonist at this point was, of course, the dopey hunter Elmer Fudd, though filmmakers had begun an effort to develop more menacing and less formulaic recurring villains for him, leading to the introduction of Yosemite Sam in 1945. However, a key element of the Bug series was seeing him take on semi-recurring villains, as well as single-appearance foes. For 1946's Hair-Raising Hair, Chuck Jones's 11th Bugs Bunny, the director and his writers developed a story that saw Bugs imprisoned in a gloomy castle by an evil scientist, designed as a caricature of Hollywood star Peter Lorre. Bugs is captured specifically as food for the scientist monster, simply known here as Monster, a large and looming humanoid covered in orange hair with eyes the size of Bugs' head, large clawed hands, a toothless mouth, and gigantic feet enclosed in white and black tennis shoes. Animation historian Michael Barrier cited the design as one of the cartoon's most appealing things, and writer Lloyd Turner described it as wonderful and brilliant. Animation director and designer J.J. Settlemeyer likewise notes it as unique, saying the questions it raises, where do his hands and arms go when we don't see them, and why the sneakers, remind us why we love cartoons, continuing, you don't care about this stuff, you just enjoy it. The design, in fact, incorporated many elements that Jones would make great use of in his characters over the years. Animation historian Greg Ford noted Jones's love for big villains, saying it was like a visual correlative that seemed to make Bugs easier to root for. Jones was also incredibly fond of sneakers, once saying that they make one believe they can jump higher, run faster, be invincible, and even defy the laws of gravity. Famously, he'd use them again on Marvin the Martian, another iconic Bugs villain who debuted 2 years later. While saying that Jones added a lot to the character, particularly in terms of gag work, Turner credited Michael Maltese as the creator of the monster, despite Ted Pierce getting the writing credit on the cartoon, and recognised likewise uncredited artist Bob Givens as the character designer. Barrier, however, notes that due to the Warner cartoons' frequently misleading credits, it was likely a collaborative effort. While the evil scientist, at first, appears to be the short's lead leading villain, it is in fact the monster that takes center stage, as Bugs runs him in circles, outsmarting, outwitting, and outplaying him at each step. In fact, an unusually arrogant Bugs defeats or disposes of the monster multiple times. It's a short that has no narrative or visual continuity, and simply serves as a showcase of the incredible gag-based comedy of the Warner Cartoon Studio during the era. It's unknown if Jones and his team had established the monster, or even the evil scientist, to be potential recurring antagonists, though it's most likely they were intended as one-off appearances. Regardless, he did appear 6 years later in 1952's Water Water Every Hair. Following the same formula and rehashing many of the same gags, this cartoon was essentially a remake of Hair-Raising Hair, which sees Bugs held hostage by another evil scientist, this time based on Hollywood star Boris Karloff, in effort to steal his brain for an experiment. When Bugs gets away, the scientist sets his monster on him, who again appeared in basically the same design, the only real minor difference being he was no longer shown with long yellow claws. In this cartoon, he was even given a name, with the scientist referring to him as Rudolph. Whether this cartoon was an attempt to make the monster a recurring character and establish a new Bugs cartoon formula is again unknown. Rudolph appeared in one final Golden Age cartoon, sort of, with 1959's Hair-Abian Nights, a compilation cartoon repurposing a small clip from Water Water Every Hair. Similarly, 1975's feature film Bugs Bunny Superstar, the first of more than a dozen Warner package features created to capitalize on the popularity of television's Bugs Bunny show, featured hair-raising hair in its entirety, while 1988's Daffy Duck's Quackbusters interspersed short clips from Water Water Every Hair. In fact, he appeared in two small pieces of new animation, a bridging sequence leading into a classic clip, and in the form of merchandise being sold by Daffy at film's end. Over this time, the monster became somewhat unofficially known as the Tennis Shoe Monster, until one final new cartoon canonically solidified him as Gossamer. Jones's 1980 cartoon, Duck Dodgers and the Return of the 24th and a Half Century, focused not on Bugs, but on Daffy Duck's Buck Rogers-esque character crash landing on a strange planet with his sidekick, the eager young space cadet, where they come across Marvin the Martian plotting to destroy the Earth. Marvin points them in the direction of Gossamer, a little friend of his. Dodgers assumes Gossamer to be a lovely space princess, though he's surprised to find the monster when he arrives at his boudoir. Here, Gossamer appeared in his early design, though in a rougher animation style, typically of the 1980s Looney Tunes. Again, he had notably different hands, now completely covered in hair, and also now wore white and red sneakers. The word gossamer refers to a very fine, thin or filmy thread, used to describe slender, transparent material, delicate sheer gauze, or light cobweb. In this sense, it's easy to understand why Daffy was confused about the nature of the monster's being. Animation historian Jim Korkis noted that Jones named the character ironically, as he's the opposite looking of Gossamer. He's a big, hairy thing, large, menacing, and destructive. It was this kind of gag that Jones excelled in. The cartoon ends with the space cadet chasing Gossamer with a pair of Acme monster clippers, cornering him and shaving him into oblivion, remarking,
But he was all hair. There was nothing underneath. It's just hair and sneakers.
This is, of course, despite having previously seen the character to have a fleshy body in Water Water Every Hair. But again, in the words of Sedlmeier, you don't care about this stuff, you just enjoy it. Into the 1990s, Warner's began to use Gossamer more heavily. He first appeared in a 1990 episode of Tiny Toons titled Cinemaniacs. In a Star Trek-inspired sequence, Captain Quirk, Spork and their crew land on the planet Follicle 4 and come across the monster. Here he appeared slightly smaller and in a somewhat youthful design, potentially intended to be the protege of Gossamer, much like the rest of the series' characters were to classic tunes. Interestingly, he's actually credited in this episode as Hair Monster. he was also given a red instead of orange hair colour, which would strangely stick around for the next 15 or so years. Also, another small difference saw him, this time, in white and blue sneakers. He also appeared in 1992 episode What Makes Toons Tick, albeit in a brief cameo, strangely in a miniature form as an unemployed monster. Finally, he appeared in the 1995 Night Ghoulery special, designed as the series finale. Here, he took on his original form and was depicted as the Frankenstein-like monster of evil scientist Elmira. The only major difference here is that he has an incredibly cheerful nature. Also in 1995, Gossamer appeared in Carrot Blanca, one of a handful of 90s theatrical revival shorts. Here he was relegated to background cameo as a patron in Bugs' Cafe. In 1996's feature film Space Jam, he likewise made an incredibly brief background cameo alongside Witch Hazel, a character he would be paired with more regularly in later years. Also in 1996, he made an appearance in the Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries episode It's a Plaid World, where he once again appeared as the monster of the evil scientists from Water Everyhair. This time, however, they're both seen as workers at a bed and breakfast in Scotland. Again, Gossamer appears in his traditional design, though in one scene he's seen in cream and black sneakers, and in another he's seen in yellow and black sneakers. Additionally, he appeared in the 1998 episode A Game of Cat and Monster, where the team are sent to the Bavarian Black Forest to find a missing Colonel Rimfire. Here, Sylvester is captured by the evil scientist, who was now named Mad Scientist, was performed more like Vincent Price than Boris Karloff, and had pale skin instead of green. The scientist plans to feed Sylvester to Gossamer, and a gag-laden chase ensues, similar to the Bugs shorts. Gossamer is once again seen in classic design, though again without claws. At short's end, he's revealed to be Colonel Rimfire in a transformed state, after experimentation by the Doctor. In the early 2000s, Gossamer had a few small cameos in sporadic Looney Tunes webtoons, though notably appeared in The Island of Dr. Moron, where the evil scientist, now named Dr. Moron, sets him to catch bugs after he messes up one of his experiments. While only a webtoon, this was the first Bugs vs. Monster short in almost 50 years. Furthermore, in the 2000s Baby Looney Tunes, Baby Gossamer featured in numerous small appearances, however had a notable role in the episode Stop and Smell Up the Flowers. Here he takes on an infant-style design, which basically amounts to him being made much smaller. He appeared again in white and red sneakers and was oddly given teeth. Another alternate Gossamer appeared in the 2006 episode of Lunatics Unleashed, I Am Slamicus. In this episode, Slam Tasmanian joins a fighting tournament and goes head-to-head with the undefeated Gorlop. First appearing as a tiny creature, Gorlop transforms into a gigantic monster, much larger than Gossamer ever was. While not explicitly stated, it's presumed that Gorlop is Gossamer's descendant, much like the rest of the Lunatics are to various tunes. In fact, at episode's end, the Lunatics return him to his home planet of Gossamer. Gossamer didn't appear in 2003's Looney Tunes Back in Action film, however, a deleted scene shows that he was originally intended to have a brief cameo. In the scene, he was to receive a makeover from Jenna Elfman's Kate, in which she shaves a portion of his hair to reveal his face for the first time, showing that perhaps he's not just hair and sneakers after all. He did, however, appear in 2006's straight-to-home video movie Bah Humduck, a Looney Tunes Christmas, where he was seen as the security guard of Daffy's Lucky Duck superstore. Here, Gossamer perhaps saw his largest transformation yet. He was fully clothed for the first time ever, in a shirt, tie, hat, and white and red sneakers, and was additionally given thick eyebrows and purple rings around his eyes, perhaps helping to better express his now friendly personality. As such, his more antagonistic features, such as his long, sharp claws, were removed. Notably, however, he was returned to his original orange colour. These design touches would also stick around in most future iterations. In 2009, Warner Brothers began production on a series called Looney Tunes Laugh Riot, which was planned as a variety showcase of new Looney Tunes shorts, designed to be true to the classics but with a modern edge. This zany and over-the-top concept didn't make it very far, with studio executives cancelling its production after viewing the pilot. In recently surfaced footage, it's been revealed that Gossamer would have been part of the original series cast in his classic villainous role, presumably as the henchman of Witch Hazel. While Laugh Riot didn't go into production, the concept and new character designs were reworked into the sitcom-inspired Looney Tunes show, which ran from 2011 to 2014. However, in the transition, Gossamer was given a personality overhaul, presented throughout the series in a similar happy-go-lucky, friendly persona as in Bah Humduck. Even stranger, Gossamer was now depicted as a young teenager, often seen attending high school. In this series, he is the son of Witch Lisa, a kinder version of classic Looney Tunes villain Witch Hazel, and in some accounts, her sister. Gossamer takes on mostly the same look as in Bah Humduck as well. He's classically inspired with orange hair and long claws. However, modern touches such as eyebrows, purple eye rings, and teeth stuck around. While slightly stylized with an angular edge, this redesign by artist Jessica Baratsky isn't as drastic as some of the other characters. In the current series of Looney Tunes cartoons, debuting in 2020, Gossamer has so far made one major appearance in the short Big League Beast. Here, he has returned to his classic depiction as the villainous henchman of the Scientist, now known as Dr. Frankenbeans, but credited once more as Evil Scientist. This cartoon is a clear homage to the classic Bugs vs. Monster cartoons, which sees the two chasing each other around a castle in a series of ludicrous gags. Gossamer, who is even named in the short, again takes on his hair-raising hair design, with orange hair, white and black sneakers, and long yellow claws. One gag even reveals that he truly is just hair and sneakers. Despite the vintage inspiration, the modern eyebrows and eye rings were still added. Strange to note, however, in Gossamer's only other appearance, a cameo in Happy Birthday Bugs, he appears eyebrowless. Most recently, Gossamer appeared in 2021's Space Jam: A New Legacy, this time round promoted to member of the Toon Squad instead of mere background cameo. Here, he aids the Toons and LeBron James in defeating an evil rogue algorithm, and appears in both traditional animation and in CGI for the very first time on screen. While he isn't hugely important to the plot, he does get a few great gag moments and is an essential member of the team. Here, he takes on his classic design, sans eyebrows. Interestingly, he wears white and black sneakers in traditionally animated form and white and red in CGI form. While Gossamer may not be an incredibly well-known staple of the Tunes, his brief appearances over the years are enough to solidify him as an iconic part of the franchise's fabric. While his appearances are somewhat unpredictable, we're bound to see him turn up once again in who knows what form sometime in the future. What are you waiting for, Warner Brothers? Give this big hairy boy his own show. And at that, I'm throwing it over to you. I want to know, what is your favourite Gossamer design and appearance? Fire away down in the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Hey everyone, if you haven't yet, smash that big old subscribe button up on your screen to keep up to date with all my content, and hit that like button down below. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon for as little as $1 a month for exclusive videos, early access content, and to get your name up on the screen. Thanks again for watching.